What's up guys, Bill here from Evil Olive. I posted a picture a couple days ago about some of these little LEDs that I was putting together, the individual LED and the resistor, and then wiring it myself, and wanted to see if anyone was interested in a little tutorial video, and a couple people showed interest, so I'm just going to do something. It's going to be pretty basic. Just going to go through my process, how I do them, where I get them from, the difference between the pre-wired and the ones that you have to wire yourself, how I wire them myself, prices, links, all that fun stuff, and what kind of wire I use. So if you're into any kind of prop building that involves any kind of LEDs or small lighting, even small motors and stuff, you might find something interesting in this video with the wire that I use. So we're going to dive right into this. I'm going to put little comments and notes and that on the side where I can, and post links where I can too. So without further ado, welcome to the Olive Jar. The LEDs that I use, I buy all my stuff from Lighthouse LEDs. Now, there are other places you can get them from. You can go to Radio Shack. There's other online stores. Your cheapest bet is going to be China, as with everything, but there again, then you have to wait a couple weeks to get it. Quality could be of concern. Consistency is definitely of concern, because a lot of the stuff on eBay, once you buy it, the auction ends and they get different stuff. It's not always identical. That being these little vibrating motors that I had bought a couple back in the spring and used them. They work great. I wanted more. I ordered from the same seller, same title, and they're different. And that's just the way that things go with eBay. That's the nature of the eBay beast. But I use Lighthouse LED. They are in the United States. Extremely fast shipping. I usually get my stuff 2 days after I order it. If I order it on a Wednesday, I will have it Friday. They do have an eBay page as well, and they usually do bundles on eBay, so their stuff is cheaper in the bundles. You can get it in packs of 10, 20, 50 and 100, I think, as opposed to on their site where you get them individually. So I'm going to go over real quick the difference. I have bought pre-wired LEDs from them. I have bought regular LEDs from them and wired them myself. So we're just going to go into a little bit about both, and then I'll wire some up for you guys and show you how to do that. First, we're going to talk about the LEDs themselves. So I got two different kinds here. Once again, these are all from Lighthouse LEDs. I will put a link in the description both to their website as well as their eBay page. These are the pre-wired LEDs, so they come with heat shrink over where the little resistor is put in, and some wire pre-attached to them. This is about 6-inch wire leads. And then we've got just our little individual LEDs here. And this just comes with, and it's got its two prongs to which you would solder your resistor in, which we have resistors here, and then to that you would solder your wire. Now, as far as LEDs go, just to give you a quick breakdown, I've got here the orange flicker LEDs, like that I put in my candles. A 12 volt, 5 millimeter, 100 count of the orange flicker LEDs pre-wired on eBay is $30.74. If you were to get the same LEDs not pre-wired to where you're going to wire them yourself, it's $10 cheaper, $20.74. Now granted, you have to buy your resistors, which a 100 pack of resistors is $5.24. So you would be saving about $5. And it does vary from LED type to LED type. So you're not saving a ton of money, but the reason I'm going to say that I prefer this method is for 12 volts, these are all quarter watt LEDs, by the way. There is a little math equation that you have to do to find out which resistor that you need, but the resistors that I happen to need are 510 ohm quarter watt resistors. And depending on the color of the LED, from a white to a blue to a green to a red to a UV, they all have just a little bit different of a voltage. For all of my purposes, no matter what color I use, if I'm applying 12 volts to it, these resistors will work just fine. So the reason that I had got them was so that I could get a handful of different smaller quantities of LEDs that don't have to be pre-wired, and if I use them, I use them. If I don't, they just sit there. I use these 510 ohm resistors for all the LEDs that I do now that I don't buy pre-wired. which in some cases it works a little better, because the only thing about these is, yes, there's a 6-inch pigtail, but I'm going to be putting these in electrical boxes. So I'm going to need longer runs of wire to get out of the box. So this would eliminate me having a connector or have to hide the wire where I'm connecting this to the power source inside the box. So that's why what I use for my wires, and you could use speaker wire, which I found this spool at a resale shop. I got this whole spool of wire for $4, which this I'll usually have going from my power supply to the connectors that I use to run off to the LEDs themselves. But what I mainly use is telephone wire. I actually found this spool. We used to own a car wash, and someone had left this out back. This is a massive, massive spool. And then I was at a Goodwill, and I found a whole box. Same thing. I don't even know if that's going to show up. It's a whole other spool inside. And the good thing about telephone wire is it can run super low voltages. Like for individual LEDs, it can run that voltage just fine. And in each, if we were to cut the insulation of this telephone wire out, there's 4 stranded pairs. So I have 4 pairs of wire in one section of telephone wire. So I peel the insulation off, and now I have 4 sets of positive and negative wire. And that's how I wire my LEDs, because it's very thin wire. It's super cheap. If you can come across a spool of this stuff, it works great. If you saw the video or pictures that I did last year of our dollhouse, we had, I think, 25 dolls. Each had two of these UV LEDs in each of their eyes. I had them all hooked up to a prop controller via these little Wago connectors. So telephone wire works great. It's probably your cheapest bet, because out of every foot of wire, you're actually getting 4 feet, because you're getting 4 pairs of wires. But that's about it, really. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how we hook all this stuff up real quick, and that'll be that. Okay, so we've got our LED here, and as you can see on it, there are 2 prongs. In this case, our longer prong is our anode. We have our anode and our cathode. Your anode is what carries your positive charge, and your cathode is what carries the negative charge. So you can see real tiny, I don't know how far I can get zoomed in, but you can see a little black dot on the top of the cathode, and that's the actual LED itself. It's just like a house switch. It's always grounded at the source the power is used, so that would be that diode. So on our anode side, the part that our current is coming in is where we're going to put our resistor. If you're doing 12 volts, 12 volt LEDs, 510 ohm resistor will be just fine, providing it is a 1/4 watt LED, which if you go on Lighthouse LEDs website or on their eBay page, they've got all this explained on there. They're very diligent and all that. Because I've got a small little hobby vise here that I clamp it in just to make it a little easier. I've got a section of telephone wire here that I have pre-stripped. So you can see I just took 1 stranded pair. My orange is going to be my positive, and the white with the orange trace is going to be my negative. And then there's a green and clear pair, a purple and clear pair, and a brown and clear pair, and that is the same. The harsh color is always my positive, so that way if I'm wiring them together, that's all the same. We're just going to go in, and I'm going to clip back, and when you first start doing this, I advise that you leave as much excess as you can on your LED, just so that you have room to get the hang of the process, and then you can start going shorter and shorter with it, because it does take a little bit to get fluent in it all. So I'm going to trim back my resistor. And I'm going to show you right here that I have trimmed the one end of my resistor so that I have a good bit of meat to grab onto the actual anode. Got my soldering iron here. Just going to heat this up a little bit. Put a little bit of solder on it. Go ahead and do the same thing with the anode here. A little bit of solder on it. I'm going to take my resistor and put it on the anode. Just like that. I know this is all really small. Hopefully, well, that might help it a little bit. But once I get it on there, I always go back over it and just add just a little bit more. Just like that. And trim my resistor, the other leg of that, to the same length as the cathode. So I've got two even lengths there. I have to put just a little bit of solder on the cathode and on the other side of our resistor. Just like that. Now we'll take our telephone wire, and all we're going to do is put our positive end on our resistor. Let it touch. We'll do the same with the negative one. Go back and add a little more solder. Get a good strong connection. Okay. Now, just as a personal choice for myself, I always, just something I like to do to double insure myself, is I always take a piece of electrical tape and I put it between the two, the anode and the cathode. Just like that. And then, on top of that, I will take some heat shrink. I'll thread the heat shrink on there. One side, other side, and that's it. So, like I said, depending on what LEDs you are using, you might save a little bit of money. Obviously, in the 100 count packs, if you know, the more you buy, the cheaper it is. So they sell it all the way down to a single LED. But you know, if you're looking at like a 5 or a 10 pack, you know, obviously I'm not going to be using 100 of any of these. I usually end up getting between 10 and 20. So it makes more sense for me, and I do save a little bit more to buy a 100 pack of the resistors, and then I'm able to get, you know, 5 different 20 packs of the LEDs, so I can have a variety, you know, for different, whether it be UV for a black light area, or the flicker ones for my candles, these blue ones, you know, for my electrical scene. I think I got 20. Yeah, I got 20 of the 6 hertz, which is cycles per second. So these lights flash 6 times per second. So that's going to give me sort of that electric zapping that I can time up with a one of those electric cracklers from Fright Props. So if you're on a budget and you can do this yourself, it does save you a little bit of money. If you just need stuff to get done, just go ahead and buy them pre-wired, but you don't have to. And if you do, make sure, even if you don't, and you do small wiring projects, if you find telephone wire, just grab that stuff up, because it's awesome. And then what I'll do is this will get dropped down into my box. I have my ends here, and then I've talked about them before, and I'll talk about them again. Wago connectors. This is all I use when I run my wires for these. It's just super easy. They make them in 2, 3, and 5 gang setups, so I can. Some of them I'll see if I can put a picture in of how I did my dollhouse. You'd be amazed at how many of these wires I had going into these little connectors, and they were awesome. Alright, I'll give you guys just a quick demonstration here, because this is a box that I had kind of rigged up already. I have my wires coming out. Oh, I got my wires for my LEDs coming out in this box. I only have 2 right now. So I have this hooked up to a one of these CCTV connectors. These are really awesome. I buy them in sets, both male and female. Once again, China's the cheapest, but you're going to be waiting for a couple weeks to get them. There are US sellers, but these are awesome. They have little screw terminals for your posts, for your positive and negative, and all they do is they just clip right in to your power supply. So I'll just plug that in. Should move this over. But there you can see, like I said, these are 6 hertz, so these flash 6 times a second. I got 1 and 2 in this box, and I'm going to have this timed with my electric firecracker. So that'll give that popping noise. This will give the blue flashing. So it should go pretty well. I have 10 boxes like this that I'm going to do up with all these wires going in crazy directions, big fuses. It'll be the flashing lights, so that it should be a pretty good startle scare. Alright guys, well that's it for today. Hopefully this helped some of you out. One other option I want to put out there, aside from the CCTV camera connectors, you can also get these little whips. They sell these at Radio Shack or once again online for any of the male-ended power supplies like that if you want to hardwire your LEDs in. I prefer these because if something goes wrong, if I want to pull the LEDs out and change them, all I have to do is unscrew 2 terminals and I can reuse my connector. These you can reuse, but each time you reuse it, you're going to be losing less and less wire, or this end's going to keep getting more and more mangly. So that's about it for this time. Like I said, Lighthouse LEDs, awesome service, awesome customer service. Highly recommend them. Very quick. If you can put up the extra money, if you're just going to be doing, a handful of these, go ahead and get the pre-wired. It will save you time. If you're going to be doing a lot of little stuff between the flicker LEDs and UV, multiple colors, if you're building your own mini spots and you want to build it as you go, getting the individual LEDs and getting yourself some resistors and doing the soldering yourself will help, as long as you're then able to get longer runs of wire. With telephone wire, Cat5 cable is the same way, the internet wire. But I hope this has helped you. If you are going to be getting into this, if you're new to all this, don't stop with this video and go out and do it. Watch some more. I always tell people, watch as many videos as you can, because there might be someone else out there who has a video that explains one thing just a little bit differently, and that changes your whole outlook on it or gives you another idea. Research, research, research. It's very important. I do it all the time. It's just the best thing. Make sure you are well versed on what you're about to get into, because there's a lot of fun we can have in this industry, but it's best to do it safe and the right way. There's a lot of ways this stuff can go wrong, so especially when dealing with electricity, so you want to make sure that you're safe about it. But that's it for this time. Make sure to like and subscribe both to the YouTube channel as well as my Evil Olive Facebook page. I do have props for sale. Getting ready for CreepyCon here in the next month or so, so I'm going to be doing a lot of production runs of props. So if there is something of interest, feel free to message me. And if you guys have another particular video, if you've got a question on something, don't hesitate to ask me. I love requests. It is getting close to hunt season, so I'm kind of crazy right now, but I'll do what I can up until if I can work it into something I'm doing. If not, come the fall, I want to try and do a lot more in-depth stuff and do some special request stuff that would, take a little more time and a little more production stuff. So I guess that's about it for this time. So thanks for thinking inside the jar.